Ms. Vento, roll call, please.
Mr. Colella? Mr. Dowdell?
Here.
Mrs. Gallagher? Here. Mr. McGuff?
Here.
Mr. St. Ledger is absent. Mrs. Stepnick? Here. Mrs. White?
Here.
Mr. Zuko?
Here.
Thank you.
The board met in executive session on November 17th and this evening, November 24th, 2015, to discuss matters of personnel and real estate.
Approval of minutes. Recommend approval of the following meeting minutes: October 27, regular board meeting; November 10, policy, education, and safe and supportive schools; the November 17 special voting meeting, facilities, and finance committee meetings.
I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries. We have some student features tonight, Mr. McGuff.
We do. Once again, our scholar athletes never cease to amaze. We had a great fall season here in Plum, and we're very, very grateful for our athletes and our coaches who made that possible. It's my privilege to introduce our softball, our slow pitch softball team that were the WPISL champions this year, and it's my privilege now to introduce our head coach, Greg Bohatch. And as he's coming up, I just want to say that we know about their accomplishments on the field, but this is very, very impressive. 28 of the 35 in this program, 83% earn honor roll, and 23 had a 3.5 GPA or better. So let's give our scholar athletes a nice round of applause. Coach? Thank you.
First of all, I would like to thank the board for honoring the 2015 WPISL Girls Softball Champions. This was my first year as head coach, replacing Marty DeGore. The girls went 12-2, the varsity. We also had 2 JV squads. Each JV squad went 12-2. The varsity team finished second in the league, and during the playoffs, which was held over October 31st and November 1st, they won all 3 games and took the championship. They beat the defending champions, Montour High School. So very proud of their accomplishments. I'm going to go one further with the academic awards. Out of the 23 athletic scholars, we had 6 girls that actually were on two different teams this year and played dual sports in the fall, which I think is really impressive. So my hat goes off to you ladies. Next, I would just like to acknowledge my coaching staff, which was Matt Frew, Eric Say, Mike Torma, Todd Chisano, and Joe Costa. Without them, we could not have had a successful season either. Just a brief history of the WPISL. It was started in 2005. This is the 10th year anniversary. It started with 4 teams in the league and has grown to 14. It does have a junior high division, a JV division, and a varsity division. So now I would like to call up the players who are here tonight with us. And that would be Haley Trezano. Abigail Costa. Madison Gabarni. Alexa Furtraw. Sabrina Maggio. Tiffany McElhose. Annalise Monfredi. Alyssa Monroe. Savannah Proden. Shannon Sabosley. And Marissa Wilson.
Coach, I just want to thank you for a job well done. Thank our Lady Mustangs for an exceptional job, again, on the field, but also the diligence to the academics and to the good work off of the field. Let's give our championship team another nice round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bob, do they have a trophy down there? I can't see.
No.
All right. Could you get it in the picture? Mr. Alpano, could you grab a picture with the trophy? Thanks, girls. I appreciate it. Congratulations again. Thank you, coaches and parents.
It's in addition to the girls softball, we had some outstanding performances in cross country. We had two of our athletes, a boy and a girl, qualify for states, and they did an outstanding job. I think it was the best performance by any Plum in the history of East Coast I's career. So I'd like to invite Coach I and the two athletes up for the certificates.
Usually I'm a little long-winded, and I'm probably going to even be a little longer-winded than normal. But first thing that I would like to do before recognizing our squad is to, again, congratulate the late Mustang softball team. That's truly, truly outstanding. I've been here a few years, and we've never had kind of, quote, WPL championship. I think we need to give them another hand. Second thing I'd like to take before we again go to cross country, I'd like to thank the board and the administration for all the support that they've given to the Stampede in the Park, which is like kind of part of our program. This will be our 10th year, and we've raised $210,000 in the 9 years, and our goal is to go $250,000 by the end of this year. And again, we couldn't do it, without the board, the administration, and the community. We really, truly, truly thank you for that. So moving on, I'd like to now thank the administration and the board for the support of the cross-country team. Special thanks to Dr. Glasspool, Mr. Alpino, Mr. Wolf, for being so supportive, and truly, Mr. Casella and the outstanding high school teachers here at the school. Without their help, we would not have gone and succeeded the way that we did. So I really appreciate all that you've done for us. Next, now moving on to our cross-country program, I'd like to thank the coaches. I've learned this, that if you want to be successful, you surround yourself with special people and let them do their special things. And we truly had some special coaches this year. Coach Tony Morinello, Coach Lisa DiLorenzo. I think we need to give Coach DiLorenzo a hand. Volunteer coach. And Coach Jay Marston, and our special coach, Steve Joyce. Okay, real quick, just want to give you a little highlight on the season. This was, from my knowledge, the best combined record that any cross-country team has had. in Plum. They were 19 and 5. The boys were 10 and 2, and the girls were 9 and 3. And that was just truly an outstanding performance by them. However, that was, I don't believe, our greatest accomplishment this year. Our greatest accomplishment this year was not on the running. It was in the classroom. We had 47 of the 49 athletes were on honor roll. If I do my math, and I can do that pretty well, 96%. We had scholar athletes, 37 of 49. That's 76%. And we had 23 runners who had over a 4.0 in the classroom. And that's really, really, really special. And you know, it speaks volumes, not for me, it speaks volumes for their parents who are really special, and really, truly special volume for the teachers here at Plum. If you don't have the special teachers that we have at Plum, you're not going to have athletes getting that high in our QPA, and we really, thank them for that. So, moving on, last thing I want to introduce now, two of our squad members, Rachel Villada and Jake Sisella. I would probably say, and again, I've been around a while, but I don't know before I was here, but these are probably two of the most premier runners that we've ever had at Plum. They had, as it was mentioned before, they both medaled at the WPILs, and that's the first time that's ever happened, and they were the highest placed finishers in states that we've ever had. But again, that may not be their greatest accomplishment. Both of them well over 4.0, not only this 9 weeks, but in their career here at Plum, and that's truly special. So I'd like to recognize now both of them. First, Rachel. Is that the wrong one? I can't see it. That's what's Jake, sorry. Rachel finished 7th in the WPIAL. That's the first time that we've ever had a girl medalist at the WPIAL. She finished 31st in the state. Now you may say, well, 31st. That's out of over 240 of the best runners in the entire state of Pennsylvania. And she came within, I believe it was 7 seconds of medaling at state. So that's really a super job for Rachel. And now our male member, Jake Sisella. This is going to be kind of tough for me to be able to say goodbye to Jake. He's really a special runner. Not that all my runners aren't special, but he just did some truly amazing things. He finished 4th in the WPIAL. That's the second time that he's finished in the top 5. He finished 3rd last year. He then went to states, finished 8th in the states. And this was all done with only half a year of training. He had some injury problems, and we've only had a half a year of training with him. And he did that well with just a half a year. And he's going to move on to regionals in New York this Saturday. And I believe this is going to be his best race of the year. So we have Rachel and Jake. And again, as I leave, I want to thank the board for all the support that they've given to the cross-country program. A special one enabling us to be bused to Boyce Park to run our distance runs there, to try to run 50 athletes. Distance running, around the school would be very difficult. We really appreciate all you've done for us in that regard. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. I see Coach Max and Coach Steve here as well, so thank you for your time and efforts. Appreciated, as well as you, Coach Ayana. I do see the students, both Rachel and Jake, in their their teammates running around the school in all sorts of conditions, no matter how hot or how cold or whether it's raining or not. So I know they're training hard and their hard work's paid off, so thank you. I'd just like to take a moment before we open the floor to recognize some board members, starting with Mr. McGuffin, his 24 years of service to the Plum Borough School District. I'd like to thank him for his sincere and genuine approach to school business and care for our students. I believe that he does set an example for school directors in our region, not just here in Plum Borough. So thank you.
Tim, thank you. Thank you. And I would like to thank this board, I'd like to thank this community, because it has been truly my distinct privilege to be an advocate for our children, an advocate for our community for almost a quarter of a century. When I think of back to 1991 when I started, it's hard to imagine. It's been a big part of my life, and I really appreciate the opportunity that I've had. And I also want to thank my wife. My wife is here this evening, my wife Lucy. I wonder if you could stand, honey, because this has been a real partnership, and she has been the facilitator on all of the things that I've had the privilege of doing. So I'd like to give her a nice round of applause as well. But thank you. It's been a true privilege and a true honor to serve this community. Thank you.
Dr. Glasspool, if I may, for 1
Yes.
minute, and take a point of personal privilege. Tom, I'm going to miss you. I have learned a lot. You have led with great integrity.
Thank you.
And it's going to be very tough to go your voice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Michelle.
I as well would like to echo that your years of public service to this community is absolutely unmeasurable. You've dedicated your time, your patience, your goodwill for the betterment of this community and this school district. You've been a constant presence in our borough, and I too have learned from you in the past 2 years, and I want to thank you for your constant good faith and in those around you when I know it was hard to do. And thank you for just being a sincere gentleman and fellow board member.
Thank you, Michelle.
Yeah, I'd like to also extend my gratitude for your service. I've been on the board 10 years, so we've been together for those 10 years, and I do relish the time we had together. I thought it was a good 10 years. I'm glad that we had the time to spend that time together.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Tom, thank you for your time. 24 years, you know how much work goes into this job. And there's a ton of it, and you've put a ton into it. So I think we all appreciate it. I think the community appreciates it too.
Thank you, Sal.
You know, if it was like dog years, you'd be 168 years old. But you keep your age well. Thank you for everything, Tom.
Thank you, Sal. Thank you very much.
And I, too, want to thank you, Tom. Not only have you been a mentor for me, but you've been a good friend. And I appreciate all the time, the conversations that we had, and all the things that you were able to tell me about things going on the board. And I appreciate it. I appreciate your service. Thank you again.
Thank you, Loretta. I appreciate that.
I'd like to take a minute also. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, Tom, I already said my personals to you, but yes, I hope that you will spend all this extra time now with your family and the community, and Lucy will probably appreciate having more of your time. So thank you. You've been a wonderful man and a great gentleman.
Thank you, Rich.
Appreciate it.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
Also, I'd like to take an opportunity to thank Mrs. White. Mrs. White's been a board member here for 9 years. Her training experience as a professional educator has served this community well, and you will be missed. I always make it a point to stand or sit near Miss White at a variety of events so that she can keep me in line, and I'm sure someone will pick up where she left off. But thank you so much.
I know I appreciate all the banquets where we sat together and kept each other in line, really. Okay, I just have a few words. You know, education has always been my passion. As Dr. Glasspool said, I spent 34 years teaching at the senior high and also serving on the school board for 10 years. So, you know, I'm very much aware of the problems that are facing public education today. I only hope that the new board has the experience and the expertise to solve these problems, and I certainly wish them all good luck. So thank you again, and good luck solving all the unsurmountable problems of the board. And you'll help them, Dr. Glasspool.
I will.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, Loretta is certainly going to be missed by me, and I've learned so much about education from her. You've amazed me with your knowledge, your strength, and your quick wit. That's been my favorite. It has
laugh
been
a
more
lot.
than my pleasure to sit beside you for the past 2 years. Words cannot express my gratitude, and you're just such a generous and giving person. And thank you for representing education for our students, truly the backbone of our school district.
Loretta, you have committed your adult life to public education. So
44
when you
years.
say that you are an advocate, you have really put your time where your attention, where your heart truly is. So thank you on behalf of the whole community. Thank you for the commitment that you've made, and you've made Plum a better place to live. Thank you.
Yeah, I too want to thank you for your service. We kind of started together 10 years ago on the board. We were elected at the same time, and I spent these 10 years with you, and I do appreciate the time we spent together. And I'm sure we'll see you in the future. I'm sure you'll be around quite a bit. So I do thank you for your service, and I'll miss you in the future.
We have been friends.
Yes.
I just wanted to share everybody the gift that I got from Michelle, words of wisdom. And I think maybe I'll read them and spend a good bit of time becoming wise.
Loretta, I too would like to thank you. Michelle and I were elected, and I think we've learned so much from you. I said how many years ago I wanted to be on the school board with you, and I meant it. I'm going to miss the conversations of Loretta. You have to have that in a file somewhere, because we are coming to get them. But your memory is amazing, and honestly, your skill to lead and anytime everybody ever says, "Oh, Mrs. White, she was the best teacher," and so you've taken that and that skill set and brought it to this board, and it was much needed. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you, Michelle.
And Loretta, I'd like to also concur with Michelle. Your wit was greatly appreciated. And I know many times you and I, agreeing on something surprised the board.
It surprised both of us.
So I'm going to miss having somebody that, I guess, my age group. and we share, I guess, the things that only our generation could understand. So I'm going to miss that. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Loretta, I can only say one thing. If I would put a couple words to it, is that you were the franchise player for me as president. Anything I asked you to do, you always stepped up to the plate, engaged it, and finished it. And it made my job easier as president, and I really appreciate that. You always told me it's about education, and you proved that as a board member. And I really thank you for your time.
I appreciate all the kind words. I don't know if I deserve them, but I appreciate
Well
them.
deserved, Ms. White, well deserved. Also, this evening, Mr. John St. Ledger is unable to be here, but I would like to thank him. He did serve for 4 years. He was, as a professional that worked many, many hours, he always made it a point to be here at meetings and has done a great job. His professional and pragmatic approach to school leadership will be missed, and I'm sure that everybody up here can certainly appreciate Mr. St. Ledger and the professionalism that he always exemplified in board meetings, whether it was on stage, behind the scenes, in closed doors, always was a consummate professional and a true leader and a voice of reason oftentimes needed.
I agree. If I were to describe him, it would be amicable, honorable, and true gentleman. So I'm going to miss him as well.
And I'd like to
The words
wish
that I
him
have,
well.
he was
Yes.
just a good man. Just
Absolutely.
a good man.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Glasspool. Thank you for the board. Are there any comments on agenda items for tonight? Agenda items?
Non-agenda items.
Are there any comments on non-agenda items for this evening?
So at this time, if any agenda items, you could come down. Thank you.
The issue that I wanted to bring about tonight was about transportation for Holiday
Excuse-
Park Elementary School.
Could we get your name and address, sir?
I live at 2220 Chaparral Drive, Dave Livingston.
Thank you.
The district states that I am 8/10 of a mile from the school. And I guess your policy is 1 mile, walking less than 1 mile, you're considered a walker and cannot take a bus. My son's 7 years old, and I feel it's a little tough for him to have to walk 8/10 of a mile to school by himself. Our street is almost like a throughway, and everybody speeds constantly. We almost seen 3 kids get hit by cars trick-or-treating on Halloween. Now, there's a bus stop 8 houses the opposite way from my house, away from Holiday Park, where I've been putting him on that bus since the second day of school. And I was just informed yesterday that he will no longer be able to ride that bus, along with 13 other kids, from what I gather. And their bus has enough capacity to withstand the children being on the bus. So I don't feel that there's a need to put their lives in jeopardy and make these children walk at such a young age for that amount of distance, especially getting a letter the second week in December is when we're supposed to receive it, as we're coming into the colder climate. So I was wondering if you guys could review that, possibly lessen the distance to a half mile, 3/4 mile, something, so the children don't have to endure that. It's a big safety issue.
Okay, we can certainly discuss that.
All right?
I appreciate you bringing
Thank
that to our attention. Thank you.
Dr. Glasspool, I know this is not, it's out of form a little bit, but I do want to address Mr. Livingston, simply because I was at Holiday Park this morning for the kindergarten performance, which was awesome, by the way. But I saw myself at the stop sign turning up into our campus, 4 people run the stop sign on Prescal. And until we are able to address the public safety issue and work with the borough, I want to make sure these children are on a bus and safely brought to school. And that, I mean, I know from family living on that road, it is people don't pay attention to stop signs, they speed, and I'm very uncomfortable with students walking on that street.
Okay. Thanks.
Good evening. Debbie Bell, Jackson Road. First of all, Mr. McGuff, Mrs. White, I hope you guys run again in 2 years. We need you. Plum Borough needs you. Our children need you. And I know both of you have the heart to do it. Dr. Glasspool, I don't envy you being in the position of the superintendent of this district at this trying time. Hopefully, things calm down this year for you. I have a ton of questions for a ton of different people. Mr. Dowdell, when you purchased your home in Edgemead, the students that were in the Edgemead plan were supposed to become Regency Park children. At that time, the Edgemead families did not want their children to go to the old school in the district. You people put a petition together because you didn't feel it was fair that they went to Regency and you wanted them to go to Center because that was at the time when Center was the new school. Why is it okay for our children from Regency to be put into the old school, but it wasn't okay for the Edgemead children?
My name is not on that petition.
You were part of the plan at the time it was built.
Ms. Bell, I can appreciate it, but this is an opportunity for you to make comments to the board.
Okay.
It's not really a question and answer session, but you can certainly pose those questions
Okay.
if you'd like.
The next parts of my questions go to finance, which is Mrs. Stepnick, correct? Okay. There was an article put out stating that Mr. Marasini's position could be bonded. He could not be bonded. When Mr. Marasini came to this district, he replaced Mr. Lucas. He came in at approximately an $86,000 salary plus a package. Now, from what I understand, he only does the budget part of the district. We have Mr. Brewer, whose salary is a little over $87,000. So between Mr. Marasini's salary and his package and Mr. Brewer, what was an $86,000 employee now is almost $200,000. How does the board justify these numbers to we, the residents of this borough? My next question is, if this board tables the Regency Park issue, to date, there's approximately $1 million been spent on that project. How do we recoup that $1 million in assets that's been spent out of what the bond is? Who is liable for that $1 million fee that's out there? And finally, and I know this is going to open a real big can, but I want an answer. Last week at the special voting meeting, Dr. Glasspool called you, Mrs. Stepnick, and he asked you you were talking on the phone, addressing us, the residents, and the parents of the Regency children. Mr. Dell, Mr. Kalia were arguing over top of it, and we could not hear what you were saying, and Mrs. Kalila was in the audience telling the Regency parents to shut up. I would like to know what you were saying on the speakerphone to us, parents of the Regency children that are involved, because none of us, and I've talked to quite a few of them that were here, heard one word you had to say.
I'll answer them tonight.
And again, Mr. McGuff, Mrs. White, I hope you both run again in 2 years. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Bell. Any other comments on agenda, non-agenda items? Doesn't appear that way.
No other comments? Dr. Glasspool, the agenda, please.
Facilities Committee, Mr. Rich Zuko, Chair. Approve the use of facilities requests as presented.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. Before I say yes to anything regarding facilities, I want to know what the outcome was of lacrosse being told no, soccer being told no, some soccer being told no. I want to know, was there an outcome, or is everybody going to have space this year?
I don't believe we've gotten that far.
Well, when are we going to do that? Because December 1st is next week.
Certainly as soon as possible. Just haven't gotten to it. I know that Mr. Alpino and Mr. Holland have reached out to folks, but getting everyone together to have a conversation is difficult to work out those schedules.
I just want to make sure that that every single person has gotten space. We're down a gym, and I know we're trying to accommodate as much as possible and coming up with new rules and how we're going to work 707 in the spring for the next school year, but I don't want anybody left behind. So if somebody has to give up a day or practices need to be shifted around or whatever to make sure everybody is accommodated, that needs to happen. And I believe Mr. Nardo was told the same thing, and I think, everybody needs to know that you can't maximize a lot of time and you have to be willing to work with the board and the district, because I don't want to hear lacrosse doesn't have space. I was told last night, one part of the soccer organization was told, you don't have space. How is this possible?
Well,
This can't be all because of one gym.
You know, I think the way we left it, Michelle, was that we were going to take another look at 707 because
Right.
there were some dates on there that we
Right.
had to have the applications in by, and I think that's what was confusing as far as lacrosse was concerned.
Right, but it doesn't also say, Loretta, in there, for these dates, you have to have your application in by this
This
date.
date.
But they don't understand all of that completely. Do you see what I'm saying, too? They were looking at it like, okay, I have to have it in by this date for the winter, not in July. And I get that. So there's a lot of questionable things with 707, and we seem to waive it consistently. And I know last week we discussed, when the microphone was working last week after we got it up and going, that staff was going to work this out, so a week later, I just want to know it's getting worked out. I don't want anybody told no, I don't think that's fair.
Well, I think part of it was with the facilities request, but once we get that, or once you guys get
Yep.
that straightened out, because I won't be here, then Mr. Alpino was going to make sure that everybody,
We haven't had an
had their
opportunity to get
chance.
everyone together. You know, and again, you have to understand, we've already told certain groups that, yes, you can use this, and I don't know if they've scheduled games and whatnot. So we have to get all of those folks together. It's to sort this out.
Well,
So
we
again,
did ask for some schedules, I believe, and I don't know that
Yes.
we've gotten them back. And
Well-
so if you're not going to go by what we requested as well, then that's a bigger problem.
well, I think one of the problems was the December 1st date for lacrosse. I think that's what he was waiting for, and that was the reason why we didn't have his application. But once we get that settled, and I think we're going to have to waive that part of the policy, at least for him this year,
Yes.
and until we make that clear, and then just trust the fact that Mr. Alpino couldn't get them all together. I
If
think
it's an
it'll
issue
work
of
out.
needing an evening meeting, I'm happy to help facilitate. I just want it squared away.
any more discussion?
Any other discussion? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to waive policy 707, use of school facilities at Plum High School for the Region 3 Reflections Awards Ceremony sponsored by the PTA on Sunday, April 24th, 2016.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. I don't like to have a lot of, I would say, exceptions to our policies either, but this particular policy is because this is a regional award, and I think it would be an excellent opportunity to showcase our district and our schools and our facilities and our students and our personnel. So I really like this one, and this is one of the few that I'm really gung-ho for on saying yes to.
Thank you, Mr. Zuko. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Yeah, I have a point of order. Do we have any working microphones down there? We're
We're
missing
getting
one down
batteries here.
here. We're working on.
We're going,
This one, you mean? It's
Is
working.
there any extra ones?
I think the batteries are just, some of the batteries are just dying.
Not me.
Jean's is working, I think.
Item 3 is recommend approval of GOB invoices as presented.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation also.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to contract with Mr. Richard Maddock for snow plow and removal services using district vehicles at an hourly rate of $18 as needed for the 2015-16 school year.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to contract with Dunright Construction and Paving LLC for auxiliary snow plowing removal services using Dunright vehicles at an hourly rate of $95 as needed for the 15-16 school year.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I hate to do this, but yes. Real quickly, considering item 4 and item 5, I just wanted to make sure that the people understood that these are two different items. One is a backup, basically, when we can't get all the snow removal done and we have to call somebody in. So one is we use our own truck and we pay a gentleman.
Correct.
And if we have heavy snow and he can't get it all done in time for our requirements, then that's what this one is.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to dispose of Plum High School storage items as unusable and obsolete as presented.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation also.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Item 7 will be slightly different than it appears in the agendas. Recommend approval of the resolution to consolidate and subdivide tax parcels number 1095J356, 1095R109, and 1095R98 pursuant to the Plum Borough School District Bus Depot Plan for lots.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Yeah, for the general public, can we explain, please, what all that means?
Yes, what that is we're talking about the tax parcels here at the Plum Borough High School. This isn't one lot. I apologize, we already did those. These are Greensburg, these are the 1460 Greensburg Road lots.
Yeah.
So that property actually is 3 parcels, and that's going to be redivided into 2 parcels.
Any other discussion?
Thank you for that.
Good catch.
Oh, no other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
The Facilities Committee met on November 17, 2015. Mr. Zuko will make this report.
Most of the things that we covered, we just voted on, so they're pretty self-explanatory. We have a few other items, but everything seems to be incomplete or in flux, and I don't want to really get into too many comments until we have a direction or something definite we can tell the public. Otherwise, it just goes into rumor and innuendo. So would we have something good, solid happening in facilities? We'll bring it up.
Thank you. Next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December 8th, 2015, following the Policy Committee meeting in the high school boardroom. Personnel Committee, Mr. Kevin Dowdell, Chair, recommend approval to accept the resignation of Denise Fink, 3rd grade teacher at Pivot Elementary School, effective December 2nd, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the resignation of Brandon Miller, substitute music teacher, retroactive to the end of the day on November 17, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the retirement of Lori Nicoletti, food service worker, effective November 30, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the retirement of Ingrid Struznig, bus driver, effective November 30, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the resignation of Ron Knight, bus driver, retroactive to November 13, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to hire Alexis Federici, long-term substitute teacher at a per diem of $190, effective December 2nd, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to hire Holly Davenport, bus driver, effective November 23, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to hire Michelle Jermuska, full-time custodian at the contracted rate, December 1, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to rescind the October 27, 2015 hiring of Tiara Watson as a substitute bus aide.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to amend the hire date of Cheryl Sikora, swim aide at Plum Senior High School, from October 28 to November 9, 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to rescind the October 28th motion to hire Alfred Hicks Jr., bus driver.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the following leaves as listed.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the unpaid leaves as listed.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
The Education Committee, Mrs. Michelle Gallagher, Chair. Bless you. Recommend approval to hire recommend approval of the following overnight conferences for the Pete and C Technology Conference.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the extended school year agreement with Grade Point Resources as presented.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the Title I non-public agreements with the Allegheny Intermediate Unit for Mother of Sorrows and St. John the Baptist Schools as presented.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval of the Coaching Boys into Men program at the secondary level as presented.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'd just like to mention about the program, I was going to save it for my report, but I thought I'd just mention it right now, that we had a guest speaker, Dr. Miller, who is a physician, the chief of adolescent and young adult medicine at Children's. She's also a violence prevention researcher. She's been involved in the development and testing of Coaching Boys into Men dating and sexual violence prevention program for almost a decade. And they are currently testing a modified version for the middle school sports. So that was, she came and did her presentation at the meeting and gave the overview of the program and asked our participation in that program. I wanted to make mention that the permission slips will be sent home to our male students in the junior high participating in winter and spring sports, and parents can opt out if they choose to. So.
Yes, I believe that when we mail that information home, there's contact information for those parents who are concerned would like some additional information to contact the researchers directly, or certainly myself, Mr. Fischel, or Bob Alpino as well.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Just one comment. I asked for the IRB for the project from UPMC, I believe. I haven't got it as yet.
I thought I sent it. I'll double check.
Okay, thanks. I may have missed it. Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval, accept the following grant of $700 for the High Five Transition to Kindergarten program.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
The Education Committee met on November 10th, 2015. Ms. Gallagher will make this report.
Yes, we had a very informational education meeting on November 10th. Again, I'll mention that we did have Dr. Miller come in, and she gave the overview of the Coaching Boys to Men program. Chris Berkey, our technology director, also presented information on the one-to-one initiative with our iPad deployment in the 6th grade. We have had very favorable opinions of the MacBooks and the iPads, and of course we have we still have some bit of a learning curve, but the initiative is moving forward favorably. There will be an informative parent evening on December 1st at O Block Junior High. We also discussed our digital citizenship plan and our partnership with the Common Sense Media during our library class times. Currently, Chris is looking into our website options newer layouts, features, and I personally look forward to seeing what Chris brings to us over the next month or so. We also had discussion on the school calendar for the 2016-2017, for the 2016-2017 school year. Next month, we will also discuss possibility of changing the start and end times for our schools. So I want the community to be prepared with that conversation at the education meeting. I don't know if it's going to take place in December or January, but I just wanted to make sure everybody's aware of that. I personally enjoyed being a sponsor at the elementary Battle of the Books last month and was once again blown away by the participation of our students in the reading challenge. Many thanks to our librarians, our staff, and administration who helped make that evening such a success. My favorite thing that I attended was last week. I attended the Life Skills Classroom Thanksgiving Feast. This was, if we all recall, the program that we all voted on, the Life Skills Classroom in our high school that now allows students that were not going to our schools, they were being bused to surrounding areas. Maybe they were going to Sunrise or other schools. And this Life Skills Classroom was part of a big initiative that we took this year in special education. I was truly amazed at the students, their detail, their excitement, and their courteous nature. I was more than pleased to see the classroom and the students who are learning in their home school of Plum Borough and to be Mustang proud. They were excited to show their contributions to the feast and what they were learning. I know some of them had taken us around to show us various stations in their classroom, and it was really nice to see. And I was just, again, it was just a warm event, and I was glad to be there. True success by them and Gina Shuley for leading the way. Please take the time to visit our website and look at the video of the event. And I encourage all residents to visit our website to explore and see all the amazing videos that our schools did in honoring our veterans on Veterans Day.
Thank you. The next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, the 8th, following the special voting meeting in the high school boardroom, and I believe that school calendar and times will be discussed.
I just have one comment to make about the life skills. As president of Sunrise, I got the enrollment, and actually our enrollment from Plum to Sunrise has decreased by 3, and it's because they are in the life skills program. So when I talked with Mrs. Graysick at the dinner, she said that she talked to our principal, Lucy McGuff, and she didn't seem to, much care about the fact that she lost 3 students. So it was kind of an amicable kind of situation. And I want to thank Mrs. Graysick and also Ms. Shuley for providing us with that. We're saving, I think, quite a ton of money by not having to send them to Sunrise.
It's not just the money we're saving. I think it's amazing that these children are back within their school community. I'm excited for the Life Skills Classroom in the new Regency as well, and those students will be able to be within their own age groups as well as within, their own community schools. So I'm sorry that I missed Friday. I was away for business, but I would watch the video with Michelle last night, and it was really cool. Of course, I got her tutorial as she was watching the video, so it's almost like you need Michelle's tutorial along with the video. But.
Well, I met a young man who's on, I guess, Mr. Coach I's cross-country team who was in the life skills program, and he seemed really excited. So that's one of the pluses besides the money, the fact that they're interacting with the kids in their own school setting and also participating in our sports programs. So it's working out well.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Safe and Supportive Schools, Mrs. Michelle Gallagher, Chair. The Safe and Supportive Schools Committee met on November 10, 2015. Ms. Gallagher will make this report.
I am 3 for 3. This is the 4th. Okay, it must be me. I don't know. 3 microphones going out. I don't know. Yes, we had a very productive meeting on the 29th with our community advisory group, and I brought those discussions to our board meeting on November 10th. I shared with the board some of the ideas with the new policy 824 that were helpful in establishing our administrative regulations. We suggested making sure that all head coaches and/or sponsors would have a district email for correspondence with parents and students. There was additional discussion regarding establishing a third-party tip line and receiving additional presentations from companies. So I know Dr. Rossi and I are going to look to that possibly in the next month or two. We also discussed the possible addition of a safety director or an ombudsman, a liaison of sorts to the board, pending a job description with more discussion. The project Safe Search is being presented in our elementary schools, and I did have the opportunity to catch the kindergarten through third grade presentation at Regency Park Elementary last Friday. And then I also did the 4 to 6 presentation at Pivot Elementary on, I believe, November 4th. Truly, they both were informative presentations that were extremely beneficial to our students learning about internet safety and social media. We continue to develop our partnership with the University of Pittsburgh and Children's Hospital of UPMC with additional programs and trainings and guidance. Our Title IX program and webpage has been revamped, rejuvenated, and with our gender equity programs and protocols. It also outlines the discrimination policies. It outlines full compliance with the Title IX legislation. And I encourage everybody to visit the Title IX webpage for additional information. It is listed under the Programs tab. We are currently slated for trainings on Policy 824 by December 22nd, setting boundaries for student-teacher relationships in an online environment, along with additional trainings in the new year with suicide prevention and cultivating diversity. Please take a look. Again, I can't tell you how informative our website is for the most information. In addition, now that the bad weather is starting to lurk around the corner and winter weather is coming, it's not a bad idea to look at that information on our website, and also be advised to sign up for our alert system with Plum Connect if you already are not part of that. Again, unfortunately, winter weather is coming, but warm wishes for Thanksgiving. So thanks.
Thank you. Finance Committee, Mrs. Michelle Stepnick, Chair. Recommend approval to accept the Treasurer's Report and bill payments for the month of October 2015.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Delinquent real estate taxes received from Andrews & Price for October 2015. Total amount collected, $33,696.44.
Dr. Glasspool, before we go on?
Yes.
I had a couple of residents call me in the last week. Lee, can you maybe explain what's going on with our folks that are past due in their taxes? There seem to be, I got questions like, are all my fees waived, and am I getting a letter from Mr. Schlegel? I spoke to Harry this morning, or this afternoon, and just said this is, I had a couple of folks contact me, and he said, I'm not the one sending out the letters. And he said it was you sending them out. So if we could just explain to the community, reiterating again for those that are behind on their taxes, exactly what the school district portion of that is and what we're doing.
The school district was waiving costs and interest. They're still responsible for the face amount and the penalty.
Okay.
And I can't recall what the deadline is.
I think it was the 31st of December.
31st? And I realize some people, if they're delinquent, they want to pay their taxes before the end of the year for federal tax deduction reasons. So, yes,
Okay.
if they pay, they'll have that amnesty.
Okay, but you are sending out letters to folks or getting through the folks that are behind in their taxes? Because apparently somebody got a letter and was
We
trying to understand.
periodically send out letters to people, but as far as resending to everybody, no, we have not
Okay.
done that.
Okay. Just wanted to clarify, because again, I had a couple people ask, and maybe because we're getting close to the end of the year.
Yeah, there's information on the website, and again, what you're referring to for those folks out in the audience is the delinquent real estate tax collection jointure with the borough to collect individuals who are delinquent from 1 or more years. And on January 1st, we're going to be moving into a different phase where we'll be releasing the property owners' names who are delinquent and sending information to individuals via their water bills, et cetera. So we're kind of moving to the next stage, which would include wage garnishment if those employees are district employees and so on and so forth. So again, that is on the website, I think the main page as well. Item 3, recommend approval to accept a concession stand agreement with Plum Council PTA pending solicitor's review.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
How many years is it for? Do we know?
5 years, but I just want to let you know that I received it this afternoon and I did review it, so it's okay.
Okay. Good.
Thank you.
Okay, motion and a second. Any other discussion? No other discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept a small games of chance resolution for Plum High School baseball boosters as attached.
On behalf of the committee, I'd like to make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Have we just, I might have missed this at one time. What kind of games of chance are we talking about? Anybody recall?
A number of years ago, there was legislation passed by Pennsylvania, had to do with fundraising done by nonprofit groups. In our situation, it's our booster-type groups most typically. We're required to approve them as being eligible to obtain a license from the Allegheny County Treasurer to operate games of chance for their fundraising purposes.
Okay, I just have something, I guess, inert, like, oh, bingo oh. Okay. Okay. I was wanted to make sure we weren't gambling type things. I just don't think should have any place in our school system, but if it's bingo bashes and stuff, that. Okay,
Having grown up as a Catholic, I don't consider bingo to be gambling.
No, well, but I know I missed one meeting. I was out of town, so I thought maybe I missed what that was.
No, but that's what it is. It's a step that we do for our boosters, but it's up to them to go get the license from the treasurer's office.
Okay, good enough. Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Motion carries.
The Finance Committee met on November 17th. Ms. Stepnick will make this report.
Thank you. I apologize for not being here last week. I had rearranged things to make sure I was here for the voting meeting on the 10th, and then it was moved. So I apologize for that, and I apologize for not hearing me on the phone. I just finished my meeting when I was being called. To address Mrs. Bell's question, I had been talking about the importance that I felt for Regency Park Elementary to be rebuilt was not just for the Regency families. It's for every family with children in this district and children that are going to be entering into this district. I feel it's important. I'm very concerned about class size, so that is essentially what I was saying, Mrs. Bell. We are having a budget workshop on December 1st. The time has been moved from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. We have a Safe and Supportive Schools community meeting at 6 p.m., so I'm trying to make sure we don't over-inundate folks with meetings and trying to figure out where they should be. So I asked Dr. Glasspool to move it to 7 p.m. for our budget workshop. I welcome any ideas from the community again, and please email them to me, Mr. Marasini, Dr. Glasspool, so we can get them all in a spreadsheet or a checklist of things to discuss at the workshop. And of course, these will probably be ongoing the next several months. I will be attending Project Safe Search tomorrow, so I'm excited for what that will be. And I also want to thank the PTAs for running our concession stand as smoothly and efficiently as you do. And congratulations and thank you again for taking on the next several years. I'm going to combine, Dr. Glasspool, my legislative update with my finance. I spoke with Representative Markosik around, so this is effective 1:30 this afternoon. He says he's staying still optimistic about a budget to be passed in the next couple weeks. What has been taken off the table with the House and Senate leadership from both parties and the governor's office is the sales tax increase and the property tax decrease. That has been taken off the table. Senate Bill 76, which is what would have done that, failed by one vote yesterday. So we are back onto new revenue sources, and what will they be? The liquor portion of I guess, revamp the state stores. So he said the liquor portion of all of that has been put on hold for now, as well as any kind of gaming was put on hold. The conversation of pensions are still on the table. There has movement with that conversation, but it does very little to affect our current budgets that we're facing this year, next year, and maybe even in the near future. But what the conversations are must be somewhat like the hybrid we have discussed several times in committees, and that is it'll affect the maybe new hires, but certainly not anything now. He expects a budget, he hopes, for the first couple weeks of December. It seems as if now the monies that would benefit public education are, the governor wanted $400 million. There seems to be an agreement on $350 million for basic ed, and with an additional $50 million going into special education. And also some sort of cyber charter reform, not bricks and mortar charter, but cyber charter. And they're looking at ways of maybe looking at some tax exemptions, because I said, well, that's great, but if all these other options for taxing or changing the tax structure are off the table, what are you all looking at for funding? Where's the money coming from for that fiscal impact? And he had said they're looking at, like, clothing and food will still remain where they are, but there's, he said, a big list of stuff that has tax exemptions that they would maybe look back at it and look at taxing. There's actually an extra tax on the cigarette tax as well. So there's a long list of things, and he said, as you look through our list, things that he said, me as an appropriations chair had no idea. So he said he'll update me again after Thanksgiving, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more movement. And like I said, he seemed to be very optimistic and hoping that that would help benefit Plum Borough. I let him know our concern with when we would need to borrow as well. So Sean, his education staff, was on the phone as well and said that he noted that he would also try to keep up.
Thank you.
Michelle, just a couple things for the workshop. We probably should have some type of cash flow analysis. I mentioned this to Jean for 16, 17, so we would need that for the workshop too. I think that's going to be important that we do that. I also think that we need to submit our lists or recommendations to Jean as soon as possible for any type of budget changes. I mean, it was a preliminary budget, so that being said, we need to make those changes. The other thing, Michelle, did they talk about the farmstead homestead exclusion, getting rid of that?
He had said basically the property tax structure as it is staying as it is. There's no discussion and movement on that in any way. So I would assume that at this point, and again, anything's amendable and can be changed, but I would assume that would, to me at this point, what the structure we have for property taxes is staying just the way that it is.
Okay.
You know what, when I read the paper, I thought the idea of raising the taxes would eliminate the property tax altogether, so
You know what, Loretta, yes, but it doesn't help us here in Allegheny County, because our sales tax was already higher, so it wouldn't have affected, where other counties, it's certainly that, I hate to say that helps maybe level it off to some degree, but it wasn't going to be a large change here in Allegheny County, where other counties it would have, and they would have ended up helping to fund throughout the state.
The vote that failed was to eliminate all property taxes.
Correct.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, that failed by one vote.
Oh, okay.
So I think they're regrouping on it.
Right, but he said
They're
that
not
as of
gonna
now, there's
revisit
no
that.
agreement for any kind of change to the property taxes.
Gene, the other thing is, I know we've pulled back on our revenue anticipatory note, but how close are we?
Well, when we got the word that the budget would be passed by Thanksgiving, everybody said there's no sense in going through the process. But now this news, we'll put it back on track. We'll get to 4 proposals, and for the December 8th, we should have our numbers.
I know it's work for the lenders, but it's, we're getting between a rock and a hard place there pretty soon.
I think it's worth the $750 or whatever it was to
Yeah.
make sure we have funds. I don't want to have this in a problem. But again, he said, Representative Markosik said Plum is actually in a very good spot because other districts within his community are having trouble, so.
Has there been any discussion about recouping the interest that we might have to pay on anything that we loaned, or did they not talk
I
about
did not even
that?
address that. I figure that'll be in my next conversation if there's no budget in 2 weeks.
Well, we
But I
will
will try to get an update before our budget workshop next Tuesday.
I
so.
thought they promised one by Thanksgiving.
The community has to know we're trying to put a
try.
budget together, and we don't know what our state revenues are
Right.
going to be.
Right.
So we're really flying blind, but we'll do the best we can.
But I did tell him we had a workshop next week, and I will do my best to get, if there's a new update, I mean, it's right after the Thanksgiving holiday, but I would hope that they are working through it. So I will do my best next Tuesday to have an update for next Tuesday evening.
Thanks. As everyone has heard, the next meeting is Tuesday, December 8th, following facilities here in the high school boardroom. Policy Committee, Mrs. Loretta White, Chair. The Policy Committee met on November 10th, 2015. Mrs. White, do you have a report?
Yeah, just very quickly. We discussed combining the 300, 400, and 500 groups of employee policies in order to eliminate redundancy. But we decided rather than adopting the entire 300 series, we would consider each section individually and adapt specific policies to suit our needs. We were also introduced to our new web-based system of accessing policies, which will be replacing our current system. So that was a rather short meeting. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The next meeting is December 8th, following the Education Committee here in the high school boardroom. Athletic Committee, Mr. John St. Ledger, Chair. Recommend approval to hire the following coaches at the contracted rate for the spring season as listed.
On behalf of the committee, I'll make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Recommend approval to accept the following volunteer coaches as listed.
On behalf of the committee, I'll make that recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? No discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Food Service and Nutrition Committee, Mr. Kevin Dowdell, Chair. The Food Service and Nutrition Committee did not meet this month. Transportation Committee, Mr. Tom McGuff, Chair. The Transportation Committee met on November 17, 2015. Mr. McGuff will make this report.
Our Transportation Director, Scott Mergen, gave us an overview of the department. He gave some good insight into the new facility and upgrades that we'll need to have in order to have that functional as we get into the colder weather. One of the big advantages of having diesel buses, obviously, they last much longer than the gasoline, but they need to be cared for because it congeals. The diesel fuel congeals, and so the glow plugs have to be heated. And so there are steps that we need to take in order to winterize the facility. We also, he mentioned some of the bus stops and some of the routing that is ongoing in terms of review. I mentioned that I had the opportunity and enjoyed riding bus 104 with Timmy O. And just a great group of kids that made the run to the high school, to the junior high, and to Center Elementary, each of the 3 runs. And it was just very enlightening to get to see just the whole layout of coming from that side of the borough and going to the different schools. So it was very informative. And as you know, I sent an email that same day to my peers with some suggestions of problems and opportunities that we have. And finally, he also mentioned about the purchasing of new buses. And so they are looking at what we can do, how we can maximize, get the biggest bang for the buck in terms of new buses that we would need. They were on I think he said a 3-year rotation. And so he's proposing that we need to upgrade because we have buses that are beyond their effective life.
Thank you.
May I add
Absolutely.
2 more items here? Yes. I thought Scott did a tremendous job on that presentation, and he really did explain and illustrate some of the scope, the magnitude, and the complexity of running a bus transportation system for a school district as large as ours. The next thing I want to mention is shortly after we had that meeting, there was a news report of a school bus that was stolen, broken through the fence, and crashed into a building, and many media outlets were reporting that it was a Plum Borough school bus. It was not a Plum Borough school bus, and it was not our facility. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew that there were some errors made.
Thanks for the clarification.
I do believe that the garage that the bus was stolen from is located inside the Plum Borough boundaries, but it's not affiliated with the Plum Borough School District.
Thanks for the clarification, Richie.
I have a question, Tom. I don't think you could probably answer this, but maybe staff can answer the question, Michael or Tim, somebody. I noticed a couple of times the Roanoke buses are at the end of our business. They're in they like actually block off part of the parking lot. And then at some given point, they go whipping out in opposite directions. And I know our one Roanoke, and it's around a little around 3:30 each day. And we have an issue with one of the Regency buses not getting on time, and I'm just wondering, I know we made a change with that one, with Roanoke. Is that part of why? I mean, are they ahead of schedule now that they're sitting there, or what's going on with them? Or is
I'll
their
look
only
into
job to do those elementary schools?
I'll look into it.
Okay, thank you.
Michael will look into it.
Michael.
You know, the bathroom conditions at the new bus garage need evaluated, and we need to move on that. And we can do that at the next transportation or facility meeting. But that's something that, you know, these drivers do a wonderful job for us. And for us not to provide them those services, I think is bad. It's just plain bad.
Yeah, I thought we were getting them back. I thought we were getting new bids or something together. That
We've
was
got
months
'em.
ago.
We've got them. We got them back, and we had discussion, but there was no consensus on it. But we need to move the bathroom issue forward, especially for the bus drivers. I think they do a wonderful job. And two other things, you know, our food service people wear uniforms. Our custodians wear uniforms. It would be great to get jackets or something of some sort with name tags for our bus drivers.
It's not a bad idea.
I think it's so professional. I mean, you know, we ask so much of them, and they travel all over western Pennsylvania. It would be nice if we did that.
I brought that up 3 years ago.
Sorry.
And nobody wanted to do anything about it, because especially we've got elementary students, that when they open that bus door, you want to see something that says,
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm a Plum Borough bus driver.
They all have
you know?
they all have the tags, the staff ID badges, but maybe some kind of the safety striping or something on it as well.
Something.
I think I can get Scott to look into that.
That'd be great.
Certainly.
I echo that. I definitely
Yeah,
think
for
that
sure.
our bus drivers do a fantastic job. The importance of when that student gets on in the morning and just has that friendly face, and, you know, and they know that bus driver, it's been the same one, and they're very kind-hearted. I agree. I think that they should certainly have bathrooms.
Yeah, definitely.
absolutely.
We need to do that moving forward.
Another thing about the bus drivers, I mean, it seems as if our issues, a majority of our issues we're having are with Roanoke. Are we committed to Roanoke for forever?
No, we're not committed to Roanoke. I'm not aware of how many issues are going on with Roanoke, but
There's slews of issues with these buses, but I'm hoping that the Regency issue is getting cleared up after the drivers were changed out. But what I'm saying is, if we have consistent issues, and the majority of the issues are Roanoke issues, I mean, could we look at another service? I mean, I know the object is to not have any outsourced routes. I mean, but the reality is we do have some, and so if we continue, I don't want to get into January and February. I'm not willing to sit back until a child gets severely injured, or worse yet, something drastic happen without this being addressed. I want to ask the question. We need a different direction here at this transportation department when it comes to them, and I want to know, if we have any more incidents, is there something we can do? Can we go to another service?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not sure what instance we're talking about, but I think that, you know, we can sit down and certainly talk about this.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to ask the same thing. I don't know what instances you're talking about, but I went down and visited with Scott a couple weeks ago and asked specifically about our outsourcing and why we still have it. And he said most of the outsourcing was for the out-of-district routes that we have to run. And the ones that, when we do have to use it lately, and I don't know if you missed this, but on his presentation, we've had a number of drivers not able to perform either through retirement or injuries, and that put us at a shortage. So I guess sometimes we have to outsource when that happens, but we're working on that. But I'll be happy to listen to those specifics on Roenick.
Oh, yeah, there's one where a child was injured. There's several where there were children that were injured, but one in particular really disturbed me because the principal of the school actually said, this is where this child's supposed to sit. And the bus driver, I mean, every day after school, sit here. Every morning, doesn't matter where the kid sits. And he actually injured a child that has been struggling with her health drastically. And so again, I have a concern, and if there are more issues that keep evolving with this, we need to look in another direction. I'm not waiting for somebody to get hurt and get severely injured or whatnot, I'm just not waiting for that.
We can look into that.
No, nobody wants a child to be severely
Right,
injured or hurt.
well, I mean, with
This
some
is
of these situations, that could happen, and so that's why I'm asking. I
Certainly.
know we changed that Roenick changed the driver around, and my hope is that those issues will stop, but if they don't, I want to know what our backup option is.
Certainly. This might be a nice opportunity to say that we are currently seeking applications for school bus drivers. We are offering free training, reimbursement for all clearances, as well as starting rates of $16, and we have immediate opening. So anybody that's out there in the community or knows somebody that may be interested in driving full-time or even part-time, whether you just want to drive in the morning or just want to drive in the afternoon, we even have midday runs. So if you want to work, please contact Mr. Brewer or Scott Mergen, and we'll set you up with training.
Do we have
Thank
to
you.
vote on the uniforms or jackets or something?
No.
We just buy them? Okay.
Eastern Area Schools, Ms. Loretta White, representative. Mrs. White will make this report.
Yeah, it was a very short meeting because Mrs. McDonough, the principal, could not be there, so we got enrollment figures and we paid a few bills. But of note, the next meeting probably won't be until the end of January because school districts are reorganizing and choosing new representatives. So whoever represents Sunrise from this board probably will not have to go to a meeting until the end of January.
Thank you, Ms. White. We are now at the Allegheny Intermediate Unit Number 3. Mr. Tom McGuff, board member. Mr. McGuff will make this report.
We got a very, very nice playbook last evening at our meeting, and it is the culmination of probably about 8 years of work. This is from the Remake Learning Council, and Greg Baer, who's the executive director of the Grable Foundation, and Dr. Lynn Schrum, who's from Nova Southeastern University, and she's co-author of a leading 21st century schools of that book. They have compiled, and this is of particular interest to us in Western Pennsylvania, because they've compiled the best of the best ideas. So I want to make this available because there are just a way of recognizing some of the innovation, some of the creativity in schools right within our area. And one of the purposes of this book is that it not only accentuates and recognizes the people that are responsible for this innovation, but also as a way of sharing ideas with school districts. And so the AIU is actually one of the features in this book, some of the innovations and of the programs there. I also, speaking of innovative programs at the AIU, mathematics item writing and scoring workshop is going to be January the 26th, and it's designed for math teachers and administrators, and participants will gain valuable insights into the creation and scoring of the PSSA and Keystone exams. So this also I would like to just make available that for our staff that they would consider being a part of this.
Thank you.
I have a couple of comments. One, I have a question.
Yes.
Kevin had brought up a couple of months ago, and I know we talked about it again at Safe and Supportive Schools, about maybe a joint tip line / helpline through the AIU, and has that been addressed? Did anybody talk about that? Is
The
there-
AIU
the
does
raised
not
awareness.
currently
Right,
have something
right.
like that in place, but that is something that I think that would be a perfect conduit. That would be the perfect platform, would be through the AIU because of the connection with the 42 different school districts. So I can contact Linda and tell her about this and see what
Yeah, I
the
think we
plans
talked
are
about trying to get an idea of.
for the AIU.
Would they be even interested in doing that? And I think the object was, it wasn't the financial aspect, it was hey, we could have the best of the best available.
Right, exactly.
And so that's where my other question is. And more importantly, we're gonna miss your wealth of knowledge that you bring back from that AIU.
Thank you.
Because Plum Borough has definitely benefited from that.
Thank you very, very much, Michelle. And what I will do, I will contact Dr. Hippert, and I will make that report at the Safe and Secure Schools Steering Committee
Great, and
at
then
the next meeting.
Shauna was reappointed, so I would guess she's staying now at the AIU, wasn't she?
No.
Shauna wasn't reappointed? I know she wasn't reelected, but I thought there was a vacancy.
No,
Okay,
no. To the best of my knowledge, no.
okay.
But thank you very, very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. President's report, Mr. Sal Colella.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. Batteries not included, I guess, I don't know. Thanks, Dr. Glasspool. Again, thanks to Tom Loretta and John St. Ledger for their service to our community. We greatly appreciate it. November was a very busy month for us. We had parent-teacher conference. It was Veterans Day. It's the beginning of the second grading term and the conclusion of fall sports, the beginning of winter sports. Come see a basketball game. I think you greatly appreciate it. And they're beginning work on our senior class play. Thanksgiving break begins Thursday the 26th. It continues through the 30th, and I wish everybody a warm and relaxing holiday. Happy Thanksgiving to all. December is a short but busy month. Some of our activities include December the 2nd, high school jazz concert. December the 3rd is our high school Keystone exams. December the 9th is our high school chorus concert. December 10th, pivot chorus concert. December 14th is our 7th grade band concert. December 15th, 8th grade band concert. And also, last but one of the things that we all enjoy is December 23rd, the Make-A-Wish Telethon begins. Winter recess begins December 24th and ends January the 3rd, with school beginning on January the 4th. Also, look at the website for snow and school delay information. Just for informational purposes, December the 6th is Hanukkah begins, December 7th, Pearl Harbor Day, December 21, winter solstice, the first day of winter. And December is the International Safe Toys and Gifts Month. It's also National Drunk and Drug Driving Prevention Month. Finally, I'd like to congratulate our new board members who will take office December the 7th, Sue Caldwell, Jim Rogers, Vicki Rossler, and Steve Schluck, and also congratulations to Mr. Zuko on his reelection. Thank you, and it's been a pleasure for me being 2 years as president of the school board. I think I've accomplished a lot. Those goals I put out two years ago, I think we put a big dent in them. So thanks again.
Just want to remind everybody of the budget workshop December 1st, then the committee of the whole meeting, which will start with a special voting meeting, and then we'll go through our committees on the 8th, beginning at 6. The budget workshop was at 7, and our regular board meeting will be in the Pivot Cafeteria on December 15th at 7 o'clock. So that is a change, and we'll try to get out there the best we can. Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.